Bienvenue. Hallo.
Hello.
Manifesto on Palestine. We, the citizens of Europe, from Lisbon to The Hague to Moscow and from Helsinki to Vienna to Naples, are horrified by the genocide in the Gaza Strip. We are stunned that our mainstream media are practically silent on the issue and that protests against it are being criminalized in many European countries. But even if the established media hardly report about the horror in Palestine, we can see the genocide live on the internet. We are appalled that snipers are deliberately shooting at children, appalled by images of children's bodies torn apart by bombs, of people burning, even in refugee camps, to find as safe zones, of targeted attacks on hospitals, schools, aid deliveries and journalists. Gaza is already the crime of the 21st century and cannot be justified by anything, ni vida. We, the citizens of Europe, demand today that this genocide be stopped immediately. We hereby remind Europe of its responsibility instead of squandering its last moral capital through its inaction, its failure to sanction Israel and its continued arm deliveries. The far too late and far too timid appeal by some 20 European governments, among others, who are merely calling for a ceasefire, is far from sufficient as appropriate government action. We note with respect that the UN Charter is now being applied by non-European states in the international community, such as the Hague Group, which is taking concrete action rather than merely issuing inconsequential appeals. International legal measures are needed, along with an immediate end to all forms of support for the Israeli government, political, diplomatic, economic and military. Hunger and infectious diseases threaten to wipe out almost the entire population of the Gaza Strip if the occupation and blockade continue, even after a ceasefire. All trucks carrying relief supplies must be granted immediate passage and UN aid organizations must be allowed to carry out their work without hindrance. We, the citizens of Europe, distance ourselves from the EU and those governments of its member states, as well as from all European parties that dare not name the atrocities of the State of Israel for fear of being accused of anti-Semitism. We consider the equation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism to be intellectually dishonest. No one has the right to turn defense into retaliation. No one has the right to become a slaughterer because they themselves were a victim. We, the citizens of Europe, reject walls and segregation. IDF, lay down your weapons, tear down the walls and fences, open your hospitals, schools and homes for Palestinians. You can end this conflict now. We reject ethnic cleansing, expulsion, genocide and war, regardless of where and regardless of which ethnic group, nationality or religious affiliation is affected. We, the citizens of Europe, renew this promise, which was incorporated into the Charter of the United Nations in 1945, after the violence of the Holocaust and the two world wars in the last century, here and now, in harmony with many Jewish voices. We will no longer stand idly by and watch the war crimes, genocide, illegal occupation and attacks by the Israeli government on other countries that are taking place before our very eyes. Israel is not above international law or the UN Charter. We, the citizens of Europe, therefore welcome those Israeli protests that call for an end of the war crimes and torture sites of their own army. These Israeli peace activists themselves warn of the fascistization of Israeli society, which is reflected in the countless disturbing racist and fascist statements made by Israeli ministers aimed at the destruction and final expulsion of the Palestinian population, which began in 1948 with the first Nakba. We, the citizens of Europe, demand recognition of the State of Palestine. We stand in solidarity with Palestinians and Jewish anti-Zionists around the world who advocate peaceful coexistence between peoples on the basis of UN resolutions and ICJ decisions. Lift the blockade of Gaza and the occupation of the West Bank, southern Lebanon and Syria. We stand in solidarity with the dock workers in Italy, Spain, Sweden, etc., who are blocking arms shipments, and with the tens of thousands of demonstrators in The Hague, Berlin, Rome, etc., who have made their mark in recent months. We demand an immediate end to arms supplies to Israel. We demand a suspension of the association agreement between Israel and the EU until Israel has implemented the UN resolutions in full. We demand the resumption of all payments to UNRWA, as well as the immediate release of all hostages and political prisoners on both sides, and a right of return for Palestinian refugees to their homeland. We, the citizens of Europe, echo Nelson Mandela's words to the world. We know all too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. Free Palestine, and nie wieder.